Hi, friends, and welcome back to the podcast. If you've been following me for a bit, you'll notice that things look a little bit different around here. For a while now, you knew this show as Sunshine Strategies Radio. I loved that name, and it did its job for a long time. But the more I sat with what this show actually is, the more it felt like it needed a name with a little more dirt under the fingernails. So, Deep Roots with Jen McMillin. Same voice, same 6 counties, same insistence on paying attention to the places most people drive right past. But Deep Roots gets at something Sunshine Strategies never quite did. The idea that the things worth caring about in the state don't grow overnight. They take patience. They take history. And sometimes they take somebody willing to dig around in the dirt a little and get their hands messy. Nothing else is changing. Same 6 counties, Macon, Piatt, DeWitt, Logan, McLean, and Christian. Same commitment to showing up at the meetings that no one else covers. Just a name that finally fits. So thanks for sticking with me through the change. Now let's get into it. So last week, I had the real pleasure of helping out a friend give a tour of my favorite museum, Lincoln Heritage Museum in Lincoln, Illinois. And out of everything, my favorite part by far was when my friend Ron, outfitted as Mr. John Stevens, was planting on the farm, and he taught the group how to plant corn with an oxen team. So Ron, dressed as Farmer Stevens, helped his little farmhand get her oxen hooked up, which were 2 older boys, one of which was her brother, and instructed her on the commands to start and stop. Then you take the seed corn, Ron said, pretending to grab some out of his satchel, and you drop it in these little hills. The little farmhand mimicked him, but soon he stopped her. You can't forget to cover it up, though, or else the critters will come and steal it. Ron demonstrated the technique, a bit of a dance move and a bit of a chicken strut, and everyone in the crowd giggled and encouraged the participant to follow his lead. Later on, the students came back and asked about that seed corn and where it came from. And I've been thinking about it ever since. That part of the skit really intrigued her. She wanted to know, before Ron pretends to grab a handful out of his satchel, before anyone plants anything, where did that seed come from in the first place? And the honest answer, the one that every farm family in the state used to know in their bones, is that it came from not eating it. Last year's harvest gets divided up before anyone else touches it. This much to sell, this much to grind, this much to hold back. Untouched, uneaten, and unspent. Because a farm with no seed corn isn't a farm the next spring. It's just a field. So I've been sitting on that all week because there's a version of this question that isn't about what you hold back. It's about what you take out of the ground for good. There's a war brewing around central Illinois and a lot of other places as well. And it's particularly hot and heavy in Sangamon County lately, just south of where Ron and I were pretending to farm. The county board just approved a $500 million data center on prime farmland, and the vote wasn't close to unanimous, and it wasn't quiet. One board member put it about as plainly as you can. This takes prime land out of production, and it will eventually hurt the whole chain that depends on it, from seed companies, fertilizer dealers, grain elevators. Opponents are still fighting in court over how the zoning got set up in the first place, months before the project ever showed up asking for it. Now, that's a different question than the one that little girl asked in the museum. She wanted to know where the seed corn comes from. Sangamon County is arguing about what happens when the ground it would have come from doesn't get planted again. Not this year, not any year. So, as a part of my news update this week, I wanted to dig into the data centers locally and ask who's deciding what this land becomes and how much say do we, the people, actually get before it's decided. So since we started in Logan County, we'll talk a little bit about it. Right now, that project's stuck in limbo. As we've talked about here before, Hut 8 has proposed a $5 billion, 500 megawatt facility near Latham. But things have been slow to move and not by accident. The company withdrew its rezoning request back in December at the county's own request, and in May, the board approved the full 12-month moratorium. There's a question hanging over whether that moratorium even holds up legally, and groups like Sustain Logan County Communities aren't backing off. A new zoning ordinance is in the works, and it would eventually swap out formal rezoning for a permit system. But for now, nothing's settled in Logan County. Moving to Christian County, there the seed corn stays in the ground, at least for now. Eagle Rock has proposed an $8.8 billion, 1 gigawatt, 10 building campus on 475 acres near Taylorville, the biggest number of acres of any project on this list. About 400 people showed up to a June board meeting, almost all of them opposed. And then just this week, Eagle Rock walked away entirely, citing uncertainty over the power infrastructure, on top of the concerns over water use, wildlife, and farming impacts. No board vote needed to kill it, it just didn't hold together. Now, over in McLean County, those friends and their board members have not waited around. They've been very active. They've restricted data centers to manufacturing zones only, which protects the farmland outright, and layered on 13 new requirements covering everything from noise to water use. That makes McLean County home to some of the strictest data center rules in central Illinois. This is worth watching, though. Bloomington and Normal each have their own separate moratoriums, and both are going to expire in November. That gap between what the county allows and what the cities allow is a story that's just getting started. Now, down in DeWitt County, it is quieter, but there's still a fight that's happening down there. Their board voted unanimously not to even send the question to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The chair was careful to call it not the right time. Not never. A soft no, but still a no. So we've got all of these counties at different points along this process. One locked in limbo, one walked away entirely, locked down tight, still deciding, and simply not ready to decide at all. Different outcomes, but the same question sitting underneath every single one of them. Who gets to decide what this ground becomes? And did the rest of us really get a say in it before it happened? And again, that's not the question that little girl asked at the museum. She just wanted to know where the seed corn came from. But maybe that's the more honest way to think about all of this. Because seed corn only means anything if somebody, at some point, chose to hold it back on purpose, in the open, and for a reason that they were willing to explain to everyone else standing in that field. That's what I'll be watching in all of our counties in the weeks and months to come. Not whether the answer is yes or no, but whether the people deciding are willing to say out loud why they're planting what they're planting and why they're leaving the rest of the ground alone. So if this is something that you'd like to have a say in, make sure you check in with your local county board and make your voice heard. Now, we can't forget to cover something other than just data centers. Let's take a quick spin through the counties and see what's been happening on the ground in the last couple of weeks. The smaller stuff, the stuff that doesn't always get into the state headlines, but shapes our daily life just the same. In McLean County, Bloomington Normal is cleaning up after a fast-moving thunderstorm tore through the area yesterday, downing trees and power lines and even forcing OSF St. Joseph Medical Center to close temporarily to trauma cases. On a much brighter note, the Illinois State University is set to hold a dedication and ribbon cutting next month for its new Eastside Bloomington campus. And Normal's new code of conduct at Uptown Station is facing pushback. The ACLU of Illinois and the Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness say parts of it are unconstitutional. So if those are issues that you care about in your county over in McLean, make sure you reach out to your city council and your representatives to talk about that issue. Now, heading over to Logan County, if you missed it, the Logan County Fair just wrapped up on August 2nd at the fairgrounds with the Demolition Derby, tractor pulls, and even a Lincoln Speedway Night of Thunder. And make sure you don't miss the next one. The Abraham Lincoln National Rail Splitting Festival is on the move this year. It'll now run August 29th and 30th, timed to coincide with the Balloons Over 66 weekend as part of the Route 66 Centennial and America's 250th anniversary celebrations. In DeWitt County, the grocery co-op project on the Farmer City Square is still on track for a winter opening, even though the Development Council's Kurt Homan says there's real work left to do before the doors open in 2027. Speaking of Farmer City, that town's I-74 project has hit some red tape, and they're still waiting on permits from the Illinois Department of Transportation. That may still slow things down. And in Clinton, Mayor Helen McLean's block by block revitalization program officially gets underway this weekend, starting with its first home. Over in Piatt County, you may notice a new face or two over at Kirby Medical Center in Monticello. Longtime Steve Tenhouse is stepping into retirement with Jennifer Moss moving into his role. And also new in Monticello, Just Hamburgers. This Paxton-based burger spot is targeting for an end of August opening on its new location at South Market Street. And over at Allerton Park, the Picnic with the Peonies event brought the community back out to one of Piatt County's signature landmarks this summer. In Macon County, my home county, Decatur's Garfield Park just wrapped up a full revitalization. They got a new playground, basketball courts, and this is a first for the city's park, an interactive ball wall paid for through a mix of state grant money, city funds, and local foundation support. Meanwhile, as of August 1st, oversight of the Macon County Animal Control has shifted away from the sheriff's office and back to the county itself. And here, locally, our data center is still being talked about. Illinois People's Action delivered a signed banner at a Let's Talk Data Centers event, pressing for more public access to the citizen committee the county board formed to study this issue. And down in Christian County, Taylorville Community Credit Union opened the doors on its new facility August 5th, marking the completion of that project. And Heartland Casa swore in its first class of Christian County advocates at the courthouse and expanding its efforts to support kids in the foster care system. And of course, the county's biggest story of the summer resolved itself, as we talked about, when Eagle Rock walked away from its proposed data center entirely. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. And before we go, if you're new here, a quick word about who we are. My name's Jen McMillin, and Deep Roots is my attempt to do something simple. Pay attention to the place I live. I'm a mom, a Rotarian, a part-time consultant, and, depending on who you ask, something of a policy nerd. I spend my days working in community development and affordable housing across central Illinois, and I spend a fair amount of my free time wandering old cemeteries, trying to keep their stories from disappearing. This show covers 6 counties: Macon, Piatt, DeWitt, Logan, McLean, and Christian. Because I believe local government, local development, and local history are where the real decisions about our future actually get made. Not in Washington, not even always in Springfield. Right here in county board meetings and zoning hearings, and school board votes that most of us never show up for. I'm not neutral about this place. I love it. I'm ornery about it, and I think it deserves better coverage than it gets. So that's what we're building here. One county, one story, one route at a time. If you want to reach me, please give me an email at jen@jenmcmillin.com. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.